What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an OTK, all out, all guns blazing, aggressive profile for Red Dragon Archfiend. Now the design of this deck is to go purely second, to break 99.9% of the boards out there, and then be able to push in for that final touch. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. I'm also going to show you a 2-card combo that will guarantee you the OTK at the end, and it is incredibly consistent. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got, and explain why we've got it. So of course, you are starting off with Triple Soul Resonator. This is your main normal summon and technical special summon of the deck, but ideally this is the one you want to go to first, more times than not, off of the back of your Crimson Gaia. Another really good option is to get into Crimson Resonator. So the combo can pretty much be utilized by going through both cards. The only issue is you want to be able to use Crimson Resonator's effect to special summon itself, which is why in this version we are maxing out on it. You could replace this with Castor Ephemerit if you wanted to for a bit of a different aggression push, but they do clash a little bit, so you can't really max out 3-on-3. If you wanted to play both, I would refer you to my previous profile that I got first place with, where you end up using 3 Ephemerit as your main kind of bait, and you use Resonator as a backup option. Then we've got one Vision Resonator and one Synchron Resonator. You could also utilize Foolish Burial in this deck, but your main target will be to send the Vision Resonator, or to then send the Crimson Resonator if your Bone Archfiend gets interrupted. So it does have multiple targets if you want to send them and utilize them. You just kind of want to avoid sending the Vision Resonator, because if you Foolish it to get its effect to give you the spell, your board's going to change a little bit differently. Then for the final basically level 2 tuner is of course going to be Assault Synchron. I still really like this card in this deck just because it's a free extender of a tuner, and the idea is that it doesn't get included in the 2-card combo, but it's one of them ones where if you do get into trouble, if your opponent does interrupt you, you do have a backup. Not to mention, if you're able to play cards that contribute your own monsters, being able to utilize something like Assault Synchron can really help you out. Then for the non-tuners, of course, we do play Triple Bone Archfiend. Like, the more and more I play this card, the more and more I want it to have a foil. Like, it's so good. It's absolutely insane. And then for the extenders, we've got 2 Wandering King Wildwind, 1 Salamander Catalyzer, and then an Obsessive Overloop. Now, I know a lot of people don't tend to play or kind of cut these down. Technically, you could do, like, if anything, you could play a 1-1-1 if you want to. But the idea is, if you open up any of these, it gives you the ability to extend through plays. The reason that I like the Catalyzer above the Wildwind is technically Catalyzer can become an extender no matter what card you have in your hand, as long as you've got another Fiend to reveal. Whereas Wandering Wild King needs to have that specific Fiend tuner on the board. So if your opponent Book of Moon's that Fiend tuner, or they bounce it or anything like that, you can't extend. Whereas Catalyzer can technically be treating itself as a level 4 non-tuner, or if you've got a Resonator in hand, can also treat itself as a tuner. Moving on to the Bystial engine, I still feel that this is the best engine to play because not only does it help extend your plays and give you more utility for the board, it also can set you up synchro plays during your opponent's turn, aggressive back row hate, as well as the ability to draw additional cards and recycle your monsters. And on top of that, they technically act as hand traps to interrupt your opponent more so as well. And mini boss monsters themselves. So we're going with 2 Bystial Lubellion, followed by 1s of everything else. So the 1 Magnamut, the 1 Druid Swarm, 1 Baldrake, and the 1 Saronir. And then for the spells and traps, I still play the 1 Beast and the 1 Regained. Now, Regained is a little bit more of a fallback because it's there for that draw capabilities, and if your opponent does technically summon during your turn, you should then get the ability to revive one of your Bestial monsters as well. But more times than not, to get the Regained, you're first going to go through your Beast off of your Lubellion, and you're going to Foolish Burial the Regained off of the back of your Saronir. So that's what that's in here for, but it can also help you as a draw con as well if you do activate a Bestial during your turn or your opponent's to then put it back and draw a card. So that's how you can also recycle your Magnamuts, which can be near invaluable as well. So moving on with this one, and the reason I like Beast is the fact you can activate it. So in an aggressive version of this deck, and which is exactly what I've gone for with this, the Lubellion can activate this face up, which means instantly I've got the ability to pop a card. So if my opponent is trying to put me under a floodgate, or if my opponent is trying to stop me in one way or another with a back row card, I've got Beast to out it. And then if I'm not able to finish off the OTK play because my opponent has ground out the turn, then of course I will have Beast as a backup to then pop and deal with another card my opponent might have. Moving on to the spells, of course, the most important card in the entire deck, in my opinion, is triple Crimson Gaia. This card's absolutely insane for the deck, so good, and it can also help you with your OTK capabilities, because when your Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack, you get to change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. And then if a monster or monsters on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you get to special on a Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard. So it gives you that ability, again, to kind of push through some of your opponent's interruptions. I feel a lot of the time your opponent may even forget about the secondary effects of this card just because it does it on such a consistent basis that a lot of people are just searching it and then sending it off, that when you choose not to send it, your opponent will be completely oblivious to the card unless they've played it themselves. Then, of course, we've got triple Resonator Call. Pretty standard on this one. This just gives you 6 versions, well, technically 9 if you include the Crimson Gaia, but it's got 6 routes to your Crimson Resonator before going through the Gaia, and it also gives you 6 versions of your Soul without going through the Gaia. And then, because we're playing the aggression version of this deck, we do have the one Absolute Power Force. So this one gives you the ability to target a Red Dragon Archfiend you control, and then if that monster attacks this turn or battles an opponent's monster this turn, you get to apply all of the following effects. So it gains 1,000 attack, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects, and then if it attacks a defense position monster, you do piercing battle damage. Any battle damage your opponent takes from that battle is doubled. Now, the reason that's so important is that throughout the combo, and you'll see that at the end of the video, the idea will be is that you're going to sync off your Scarred Dragon Archfiend, so you destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls, and then you're going to get your Red Dragon Archfiend to attack. In doing so, you're going to do piercing battle damage through one of your opponent's monsters, and then destroy all of their defense position monsters, and then from that point on, the rest of the board is going to attack directly, and sometimes with the right end board, you can actually end up OTKing your opponent after going through the next card, which is Pot of Prosperity. So for the fact of the matter is, you're being able to put 16,000 damage on the board is absolutely insane, because then it means Pot of Prosperity is not as big of a drawback as a lot of people might think. And the reason you're going to be activating a card like Prosperity is to dig into your board-breaking cards, which I'm going to show you now. So it's entirely up to you on what you have access to, but you've got the option to either play. Now, these are either ors, they're not all in the deck, otherwise the deck will go up to a 46 card deck. So I would suggest you either play Book of Eclipse or Droplet. Now, both of them are pretty much going to do the same thing. I feel that Droplet does give you that little bit better option to be able to play through certain forms of interruption on the board and gives you that ability to negate the board. But we are also main decking Dark Rule and No More, and I'll explain that in a little bit. With the Book of Eclipse, what makes it so good is being able to put everything in defense. It means that you don't rely on the destroy all attack position monsters of your Scarred, but you rely more on your Red Dragon Archfiend to kind of clear the board off, which is quite a nice option. Keep in mind as well that if you leave the Red Dragon Archfiend on the board during the end phase, you need to either have a Soul Resonator in the graveyard protect from its destruction effect, or you need to get this off the board so you don't lose everything. So you do need to keep that in mind for the grind game, because the last thing you want to do is go to the end phase and forget about your Soul Resonator in the graveyard and go, okay, pass. Red Dragon Archfiend destroys my own board. Ah, crap, forgot about that. Destroy all my monsters. Like, you need to make sure you're aware of that. So I would either play Eclipse or Droplet. I quite like the idea of Eclipse being non-target, Book of Moon in all of your opponent's monsters, so it can be a 1-for-1 trade for a negate if you need to. Whereas what I quite like about Droplet is if they try and target one of my monsters that I don't mind going to the graveyard with an effect, I can Droplet, send it, get more advantage off the back of it. It's also something pretty cool when we're playing Triple Tactics Frost as well, is you can activate Frost, your opponent can try and negate the Frost, and you can activate Droplet to send it as well. So entirely up to you on whether you want to go for Eclipse or Droplet. In this version, I'm going to go with Droplet, but Eclipse is a nice alternative as well. Then, of course, as we are a Go Second deck, we are going with 2 Triple Tactics Frosts, and the targets off the back of the Frost is going to be your Talents, your Storm for front row and back row, your Dark Hole. Now, the reason that I quite like Dark Hole as an option is because if you put a monster on the board, they negate it or they try and lock you down, you can activate Dark Hole and it can clear your board off so that your Crimson Resonator then becomes a free summon from that point on. It can also be pretty good if your opponent is, or your local environment or wherever you're going, is going to be utilising like an Ibby Lock combo or any type of combo that tries to stop you using a card like Lightning Storm or using a card like Evenly Matched. We've then got the one Dark Rule and No More, which is why you probably like consider not wanting to play Forbidden Droplet in the main deck. But the way I kind of look at this, and I've kind of said it from the start with Triple Tactics Frost, is at the end of the day, if my opponent lets the Triple Tactics Frost resolve, it means that the cards on their board is not going to be able to stop a Dark Rule and No More anyway, so the Dark Rule and No More will not be that effective. The only time my opponent lets a Triple Tactics Frost resolve is if they've got a way to stop a card on the level of Dark Rule and No More. Like, it'll be very, very silly if they let Frost resolve and then can't stop a Dark Rule and No More because they're like, what's the worst they can search? So it is a bit of a gamble, which is why you could arguably take the Dark Ruler out, or you stick with a Dark Ruler and then you put in the Book of Eclipses. That way you're getting the best of both, being able to negate a board without response. And then the final card is an Evenly Matched. So keep in mind with this, there are times when you don't want to be using Evenly Matched, and sometimes you don't want to use Dark Ruler no more because you still want to push for that Battle Phase OTK. But these are cards that I'd rather have and not need than need and not have, because that's why we're only playing them at 1 of. It's one of the ones that if your opponent has tried to play through everything you can, or they auto lose to something like an Evenly Matched, then you get the Evenly Matched, you clear off their entire board, and then you build your board off of the back of it. Same for the Dark Ruler no more. You turn off their board, which is like multiple Omni Negates. So if you look at something like Infernoble Knights, for example, Dark Ruler their board for now, turn off their entire board, build your board, and your board will be able to pick it apart and destroy it, and then control their next turn the entire way through. It is a 44 card deck, so if you like, I really don't like that option, you can take these two out. If you don't own Frost, you can take the Frost out, but then when you're doing something like that, you then need to still max out on your board breakers, and that's when you're probably going to be looking at stuff like Lightning Storms to be a bit more predominant, and then maybe Frost if you've got it, or the Book of Eclipse is another very good option. It just means that you will not be playing your one-of normal traps and normal spells. You'd actually be trying to max them out or put a bit more of them in the deck. Moving on to the extra decks, we're going to work our way up from the levels 6s all the way to 12s. So of course we are still playing the triple Red Rising Dragon. Absolutely insane card for the deck. So good. And like I said in one of my previous videos, I now respect the fact that this is a foil. I feel that the card deserved to be a foil from day one. I just feel that taking away a spot in the main deck was a little bit silly, but this card is still absolutely insane. So you'll go to level 6. Ironically, in the OTK combo, you don't go through it, but there are ways where you can go through that and still get into an OTK play. The one Cully Belt, this is obviously going to be a little bit more useful now that you're going second for the double pop. But the idea is, again, you're still going to need to utilize a level 7. And the only way you get to utilize a level 7 is if your Bone Archfiend gets stopped or negated. And then you're going to need an extender to play a little bit further anyway. Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, a lot of people will undervalue this card, but definitely in a go second version of this deck, Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend can be as much of a game winner as anything else. For the pure fact that maybe your opponent has a monster that can't be destroyed by battle, so you go, okay, cool, or card effect. So you do the piercing damage, and then you use Scarlet to try and blow up the board to burn the remainder of the damage off. It's also another one of them ones where if you can't finish off the game because of Prosperity, and you're just a few damage short, you can activate Scarlet, nuke your own board, and then burn your opponent for whatever might be remaining. It's such a good aggressive card, and it also gives you that option for a main deck time con, should the games go into time. Then, of course, we've got the one that's Scarlet Dragon Archfiend, followed up by the two Red Dragon Archfiends. I think this card's absolutely amazing. Such an incredible addition to the deck. One of my personal favourites, to be honest. Like all of the new cards we got, Soul Resonator, Crimson Gaia, Vision Resonator, all absolutely insane. So really do enjoy those. Then, of course, we've got the one Abyss, Bane, the Dracoitis Corrupted. So this is just to have a more aggressive option from Bane. So you upgrade Bane by 500, or in the combo you'll see you upgrade your Scarred by 1000, and it gets to attack twice. Now again, it only gets to attack twice on monsters, so keep that in mind. But the idea is that you're going to clear your opponent's board off, and at the base minimum, you're going to be attacking your opponent for 11,000 damage just from 3 monsters, and that's before you include any type of piercing battle damage or anything else like that. Then, of course, we've got 2 Bystial Dispatter. Unfortunately, this has rocketed in price. If you were a Red Dragon Archfiend fan, I'm hoping you picked these up while they were cheap. Such a good card. You're going to be utilising this by like so much to bring back your Synchros that are being banished is absolutely insane. And then being able to set up its effect to protect from negation is also great. And one thing that this gives you in comparison is if your opponent is banishing cards from their graveyard, you then get the ability to negate rather than destroy, but you do get the best of both with that. On top of that, you can also force your opponent to be banishing cards, and that's where your Bystials come into play, and that's why this card becomes a little bit more effective. And also Pot of Prosperity, by activating this and banishing your cards, your Dispatter then instantly gives you the ability to negate whether you're going first or destroy whether you're going first or second. The last card is a Red Supernova. Now, obviously, this is only 14 cards I'm showing you, and the reason I'm showing you 14 cards is you do have the option to upgrade any of your cards. Like, you can play a second Scarred, you can play a second Scarlet, a second Abyss, you could play Red Nova, you can play any of the other options you wanted to. I wanted to leave that out for you. I did quite like the idea of putting Chaos Angel back into the deck, but throughout all of the combos, I am locking myself into Dark Dragon Synchros for the entire turn. That's one thing you've got to remember is your Red Rising and your Crimson Resonator are for the entire turn. So it doesn't matter if you summon something else prior to that. If you summon something else prior to that, you're not going to be able to activate the effects of Crimson at all. There are some cards that lock you in for the rest of the turn. They're ones that you can summon other cards from, but Crimson being as good as it is, and of course the Rising being as good as it is, you don't want to lose out to something like that. So that's it for the entire profile. I'm now going to show you the 2-card combo that will guarantee you an OTK, and then with the right board extensions and the right type of damage, you're also going to be able to push through an OTK of Pot of Prosperity as well. So I'm going to reset the board state and show you that combo now. So the 2-card combo as shown in front of you can be a mixture of these cards. The idea is that if you open up your Soul Resonator instead of the Gaia, you just need an additional card to discard, which I'm hoping in your opening hand of 6 you will have the ability to do so. Resonator Call can also replace the Crimson Resonator, so you've got loads of different ways to get there. I'm just going to show you the base minimum with Crimson Resonator and Crimson Gaia. So you're going to activate the Crimson Gaia, you're going to summon, search out your Soul Resonator, and before you stop yourself being able to special summon down Crimson, normal summon your Soul. Soul's effect will search you out your Bone Archfiend. Activate Bone Archfiend by sending Crimson Gaia from field to the graveyard. Obviously, if you don't need to send this, then don't if you've got the extra card in hand, because then you'll get additional effects. But in this example, we're going with base minimum to show you that. You're then going to send your Obsessive Overloop from the deck to the graveyard, and you're going to manipulate your Soul Resonator to become a level 4. You're then going to Synchro Summon these two together, and you're going to go directly into your Scarred Dragon Archfiend. At this point here, what you want to do is you then want to use Crimson Resonator because you have exactly one Dark Dragon on the board, and that's going to allow you to special 2 from the deck, being your Synchron Resonator and of course your Vision Resonator. You then want to Synchro Summon into a 10, so you're going to Synchro with your Vision and your Scarred, and this is going to get you into Bystial Dispatter. In doing so, you'll also be able to trigger Vision Resonator's effect to add you your absolute power force, and also trigger the Scarred Dragon Archfiend effect to summon out your Red Dragon Archfiend. Now at this point, what you want to do here is you want to Synchro Summon your Crimson and your Red Dragon Archfiend, and you're going to go into another Synchro level 10, being Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, which is really, really nice. At this point here, what you want to do is you want to banish your Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard. Keeping in mind as well, you've also triggered the Scarred Dragon Archfiend effect to destroy all of your opponent's attack position monsters. So now all they've got is defense position monsters, so that's less for you to worry about. You're going to banish specifically your Red Dragon Archfiend, and it's important that you do that because you're going to banish it using Overloop to add it back to the hand. You're then going to activate your Bystial Dispatter to bring back the Red Dragon Archfiend to the board. You can then activate your Bane's effect. Now Bane's effect allows you to tribute one monster, target a Red Dragon Archfiend monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. So you can do it either way around, but you're obviously going to tribute off your Synchron Resonator, and you're going to bring back your Scarred Dragon Archfiend. So now, of course, because you tribute off your Synchron Resonator, you're going to resolve that, and Synchron Resonator is going to allow you to add back the Vision Resonator. So you can see at the base minimum, we've kind of replenished our hand very, very nicely. So what you want to do here is special summon down your Vision Resonator, and then just because you want to upgrade into an aggressive option, you could leave Scarred on the board, but we're just going to sync these two together, and you're going to go into your Diabolico, and then this just gives you an upgrade of 1000 attack. If your opponent has got multiple monsters, keeping in mind that they've only got defense vision monsters left, your Red Dragon Archfiend should deal with those. If not, of course, this can then deal with 2 more. But at the base minimum, you've got 7000 damage coming out of those 2, and you've got another 4000 damage coming from there. All of your opponent's monsters should be destroyed, so you don't need to really worry about the second effect of Bane. But the idea is that if you want to get a little bit more onto the board, you can use the Obsessive Overloop, and then you get to target a Synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, banish it, and then you get to special summon this card as well. So it just gives you an additional 1200 on the board if you want to. Don't have to, but by doing so as well, you're also going to be able to set up the fact that you've got your Bystial Dispatter effect during your opponent's turn, should they survive. So now what you're going to do is you're going to want to go to the battle phase. You're then going to be able to, first attack is going to call for the back of your Red Dragon Archfiend. You're definitely going to activate your absolute power force, because straight away this is going to go up to 4000, do double piercing damage, and your opponent cannot activate effects. So straight away this is going to go attack. It's going to destroy the rest of the defense vision monsters, which is absolutely beautiful. And then at the base minimum, you're going to swing in for 4000, 3500, 3500, so that's your 11,000, and then 12,200 base. Not to mention any of the double battle damage that you have done with your Red Dragon Archfiend. So that's where if you've activated something like Pot of Prosperity, you're still in a very good position. And then if you have activated Prosperity and you know you're not going to be able to complete the game here, all you need to do is get an additional level 4 non-tuner on the board, and you can make Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend and technically blow up the remaining 4 cards on the board, and that's going to give you an additional 1000 damage. So you're in a very, very good position to complete the OTK. And even if your opponent does try and rebuild their board, you're going to have a Bestial Dispatcher interruption during your opponent's turn. Keeping in mind, as soon as you move to the end phase as well, your Red Dragon Archfiend will attempt to blow up your board and you banish the Soul Resonator. It's also another one of the ones that you've got to keep in mind that if you've activated Prosperity, and it's something you might want to think about going further forward, it's why you might want to add Red Zone back into the deck. But like I said, this deck is designed to be full-on aggression, go second. If you put the Red Zone back in the deck, then it means when you activate your Vision Resonator, instead of searching out the absolute Power Force, because you know you can't guarantee the OTK that turn, you search out your Red Zone, and then you basically set that up for a little bit more. And you probably hold back the UV Loop if you need to, entirely up to you. And that is it for the combo. Very, very aggressive, very, very powerful. You do have the ability, again, if you haven't completed the OTK, that as long as you inflict battle damage to your opponent, you get to special summon 2 tuner monsters with the same level, one from the deck and one from the graveyard in defense, which again is very, very easy to do because that's how you're going to be able to get. Keep in mind your graveyard is going to have a level 2 Vision Resonator, a level 3 Soul Resonator, and a level 1 Synchron Resonator alongside a level 2 Crimson Resonator. So you're going to be able to get most of those out of the deck, apart from Soul Resonator, because obviously it's a level 3. So you'll be able to get another level 2, level 1. Heck, you could very easily go for a red Resonator just to gain 4,000 attack, which would be 4,000 life points, which would be incredibly funny. Anyway, that's just overextension, just to kind of show you how you can destroy everything your opponent has and then push for the OTK. Keep in mind that was 2 cards, so you still have options of stuff like your Thrust, you still have Droplets. Heck, if you needed to and you're not going to go for the damage because you choose to use Evenly Matched or Darkworld No More, then again you change your strategy up a little bit. You probably put your monsters more in defense, but you're still going to have the ability to pick the board apart, and you can obviously go through your Red Rising, your Red Supernova to kind of clear the board off and then build off the back of that as well. Anyway, hope you found this informative. Hope it's given you a couple of ideas for your own build. I really am enjoying the way this deck works. I can't wait for the TGs to come out as well. And then we're going to have like Red Dragon Archfiend, Synchrons, and the TGs. I absolutely love the Synchron era. Really do enjoy it. I love how it keeps you on your toes and constantly keeps you thinking, because you never know what your opponent might interact with you with, what your opponent might adapt your level with, everything like that. So it really is fun. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.